And welcome back to Relationships at Work, your guide to building workplace relationships and avoiding those leadership blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher. I'm a communications and leadership nerd. Got a couple of successful decades under my belt of experience and a whole heap of curiosity on how we can make the workplace a better place. If you're a leader trying to understand and improve your impact on work culture and the employee experience, you're in the right place. This, in your ear, in your hot little hands, I don't know how you're relating to it, is a mini episode of Raw Notes, a quick and valuable bit of information on top of our regular guest episodes, which drop every Tuesday. This is, of course, a Thursday that we drop. It's inspired by our weekly Raw Notes newsletter, and the theme today is Another Day, Another Leadership Test. Curiosity is essential as a good to great leader. Asking questions, digging deeper. A lack of curiosity is actually one of the 7 deadly sins of leadership that I talk about on the show. But it's not just about the environment and cultures that we impact that we need to be curious about. We also have to be curious about our own leadership. Ours. How we show up, how we interact with others, how we act, how we do not act. How do we know how good our leadership really is? I was going to say effective, how effective our leadership is, but bad leadership is, it's pretty effective too. So let's focus on the quality of our leadership. What are our regular leadership tests for ourselves? How do we know? How do we check in? We need these to assess ourselves so that we can adjust, tweak, align, realign, whatever you want to call it, so we aren't hurting, negatively impacting our teams or cultures. How else will we know what training we need if we don't know what the problems we're trying to fix are, where our weaknesses are? How do we even know what kind of leadership we're modeling for others? So today, we're going to focus on a few opportunities for that leadership self-assessment to consider. First, think about our own responses to failure or crisis. How is it that we as leaders react to failure or crisis is a significant test of our leadership. Great leaders, well, they take responsibility, they take accountability, they learn from their mistakes, and they view challenges as opportunities for growth. They also remain calm and composed during some of these events, even if it's turmoil underneath the surface, because if the leadership is calm, it signals to the team that they also have less to worry about. A bad leader? I know we've all seen this. They get defensive. They lay blame. They panic. They don't learn for the next time. So let's look at a recent failure or a crisis, big and small. It could be the size of the pandemic, or it could be as little as an email that you just sent out that has probably not the right tone. Something else we can regularly check in on, employee engagement and satisfaction. The level of both of those, of our team members, is a direct reflection of us as leaders and our effectiveness. Leaders who inspire, motivate, and respect their employees are far more likely to have teams that are more committed, productive, and satisfied with their work. It's pretty simple math. The opposite, however, not so great. Also pretty simple math. It includes regular turnover, high number of sick days, lack of innovation, lack of communication, lack of speaking up. Regular feedback from your team members through surveys, maybe open forums, they can actually provide insights into how we as leaders are impacting them. Of course, you have to have psychological safety for these to actually be worthwhile, because we can't just assume any problems have nothing to do with us. We can't just jump to excuses if we don't like the answers that are coming out from those employees, those team members. This is just an amazing opportunity to learn. Something else, decision-making processes. We do those every day as leaders. So observing a leader's decision-making process can actually reveal so much about their leadership style and effectiveness. Great leaders, phenomenal leaders, make informed decisions by gathering the necessary information. They consider different perspectives. They weigh the pros, they weigh the cons. Being decisive is important, and then they own the consequences of those decisions. They're also transparent about that decision-making process, explaining their rationale to their teams. Not so great leaders, on the other hand, keep their reasons to themselves. They're a black box. Lack of collaboration, they have an I know best approach, or they take no accountability for those decisions. Unless, of course, they're great, and then they're the first ones to step up and say, me, that was me. To them, employee impact isn't a real consideration. So how open is our decision-making processes? By the way, I should also mention, decision-making should include hiring practices as well. And last but not least, adaptability and learning orientations. The willingness and ability of a leader to adapt to changing circumstances, because everything is always changing, and continuously learning and prioritizing that, it's crucial. It's far too fast-paced of a world for this not to be important. Good leaders are open to these new ideas. They embrace change. They're committed to their own personal and professional development through that change. So they're adapting and being, well, I don't know if excited, because not all change is great, but as leaders, we have to understand that it's part of the gig. Great leaders are far more likely to lead their organization successfully through any change and any innovation because they're open to it. Bad leaders, on the other hand, again, the opposite to all that. They're rigid. They continue to talk negatively about any new changes, or they don't listen or respect anything that has happened from the legacy of what went before. They're either too stuck in the past to embrace change or too far flung into the future to respect what's come before. As leaders, where do we sit if we were to assess ourselves? No one's going to be perfect. I have to say that right out of the gate. There's always room for improvement, and great leaders know that. But we need to make sure we're tipping in far more of the good direction than the bad, and that comes with daily assessments. And we can't be an island in this. It's important that we add to our self-assessments by getting feedback from our staff, weighing that feedback far more heavily than that of our colleagues and our bosses. Our teams, the ones that we're responsible for, are the ones being led after all. And leadership quality is measured by the teams we lead, not by those we report to or work beside. So you've assessed. Great, you've got the information or data, however you want to say it. But this is all meaningless if we don't do something about it. So curiosity, important. Then get the information, then action comes next. Leadership is not something that's just bestowed upon us. We aren't the royal family. For the betterment of ourselves and our teams, we have to operationalize our leadership, or it just gets taken for granted. It will become about productivity, not about leadership. This is something we have to earn every single day. And that'll do it for another mini episode of Relationships at Work, your guide to building workplace connection and avoiding leadership blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher. As always, thanks for joining us. I hope you stick around for Tuesday's episode, where I talk to an amazing guest, Paul O'Byrne, who's going to be talking about what first-time leaders really need to know. Because I'll tell you, there are so many leaders starting their first leadership jobs getting no training whatsoever. None. No support, just basically being thrown into the deep end and being told swim. So I hope you stick around to hear from Paul. It's a good one. It's a good one. All right, take care of yourself. Bye.